Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to a very repetitive episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 229, recorded on Sunday, August 25th, 2019. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the August winner of the poll pick, Army of Darkness. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju Stains. What's up, Soju?
What up? It's your boy, Mr. Hot Cakes. And no, I'm not talking about these hot buns, ladies.
Oh my God. How many times am I going to hear Justin make that joke?
Oh,
this is now the third time.
The third time he has made that same very bad joke.
Dude, I am using this joke.
Yeah, we're clear on.
Last but not least, calling in from Outdoors Chicago, Randy Gandy G. Landy.
You purposely fucked it up again.
I know, I did.
We're here
Fuck it.
for authenticity. You fucked that up last time and just felt compelled to do it again. I love it. Great.
So everyone knows this is legit our third time attempting to record this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Each time it keeps getting worse.
Army of Darkness must be cursed. It's cursed, I tell you. Mr. Hotcakes has got some hot takes for you.
We got the curse. Actually, there is.
I'm in Chicago.
How rude of me. We do have a special guest on the show tonight I forgot to introduce the last 2 times, so that's probably why we've been cursed this episode. We're also joined by the one, the only Bruce Campbell on the show tonight.
Hail to the king, baby.
Yes, hail to the king. Here we go.
Yes. Hail to the king.
So guess what?
Yes.
Groovy.
Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle some housekeeping. All right, so just a quick reminder, our September poll pick is posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to be talking about next month. The theme for next month is witches. The movies you can vote on are Haxan, The Craft, and The Witches.
I'm going to make a bold prediction and say The Craft is far ahead and will probably win.
You know, I don't know how, but you nailed it. That is exactly
There's
correct.
no other way I could know this except that we've done it twice previously.
You know what? You've got a really good memory.
Yeah.
Just a killer
so
memory.
the craft is winning approximately by 50%, if I recall correctly what Bob said 10 minutes ago.
Yep, that is correct. So you have until next Sunday to vote on that. Go ahead and cast your votes. Ladies and gents, don't miss the opportunity. Also, we're going to go ahead and announce now that next Sunday, September 1st at noon, we are officially going to open the You Pick the Flick tier, which is obviously where you pick a movie and we review it. There's only 5 spots.
Obviously, open. Bob, we need to explain.
I mean, it's kind of obvious. There's only 5 spots quarterly, which is kind of how we've been doing it. So these 5 movies we're going to be talking about in the months of October, November, and December. So this is going to be the last time you have the opportunity to pick a movie for us to talk about this year. Get on it. We're announcing a week ahead of time.
If you want, I know you people are clamoring to pick Ghost,
starring Patrick Swayze. If somebody pick Ghost and make Justin's year, just
this Scream Queen Patrick Swayze.
Oh, he's got great tits, doesn't he?
Jesus. So what did I walk into here?
Also,
they're yabos around here. Okay. We're a family-friendly cast around here. We use the term yabos.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Deeply inaccurate.
Sorry, he's got great yabos.
Thank you.
So something new we're also adding to the You Pick the Flick tier is Randy designed some super dope stickers that Justin would love to tell you guys about.
I would love to tell you, and I have all the details for you.
All the deets.
Randy Gandy G. Landy has designed this beautiful sticker because he's our in-house graphic designer, of course. And it is in the shape of a VHS tape. And what you're going to get if you pick a you pick tier, what is it called?
You pick the flick.
Yeah, you pick the flick. So YouTube exclusive, it says Straight Chilling, you pick the flick. Title. So this is an example. The Loved Ones, episode number 171, date July 17th, 2018, your name, Jess, and the overall score, which in this case was a 3.4 out of 5. StraightChillingPodcast.com at the bottom. That is a dope looking sticker, Randy. So Rob will be sending out stickers for all our previous You Pick the Flick supporters, and you will also be getting one if you sign up, of course, as a new Patreon or if you pick again. And Bob is keeping one for himself. Bob, what are you doing with all those stickers that you're keeping?
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm sort of making a duplicate sticker of all the ones I'm mailing to you guys, and I'm gonna frame them. So I'm gonna have a frame with class of 2018. All the people that picked a movie last year is gonna be in one frame. Then once we finish this year, I'll have a 2019 frame, and then 2020 I'll have another frame. Yeah.
Yeah, you're making the wall.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's the Disney vault of this show.
Yeah.
That's a good.
So it's sort of like a pretty personalized sticker. There's only 2 like them in the world. One's going to you guys. One we're going to keep for sort of our wall of fame or wall of shame or whatever you want to call it. So all the people that have picked a movie for us to review in the past year and a half or so since we started doing this on Patreon, I'm going to be mailing you a sticker. I have most of your addresses, and I'm going to be putting those in the mail tomorrow. There are a handful of you that I don't have your address, so if you do want your sticker, please just contact us. Whether it be through our email address or one of our social media platforms, just send me your preferred mailing address, and I'll make sure to get your sticker in the mail. But I need a mailing address for Jess. I need one for Chad. I need one for Chris. I need one for Thomas. I need one for Matthew. And, of course, Becky, Randy. So I need to know where you live.
You will never know our address.
Tell me right now. Cast it.
Right now.
Live.
You will never achieve our address. We will remain a cryptic ghost as far as you're concerned.
I guess it wouldn't matter. You're going to be gone like a week anyways.
That's true. Yeah, you're not going to be there.
We're on the lam, bish.
I'll also make sure to post a picture of those stickers on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, so you guys can kind of see what they look like. They're super dope, actually. Randy, you do good work, obviously. So thanks for being a part of the team.
Way to go, Randy.
Also, something new we're kind of rolling out. We got some really great enamel pins made with our logo on there, and we're trying to figure out how to get those to you guys, and we didn't really want to open up a brand new Patreon tier just for them. So what we're going to do is anybody who's supported us on Patreon for a year, we're going to send you one of those enamel pins in the mail. So there's a handful that are going to be going out. I'm going to put those in the mail tomorrow as well. And I do need some addresses for those. I need one for Chad, which I think I already mentioned for the sticker as well. And I need one for David. So if you guys want your enamel pins, please contact us. Drop your preferred mailing address, and I'll make sure to get you an enamel pin in the mail.
Thank you guys who are in this club for continuing to support us, by the way.
Yeah,
yes, 1 year. Awesome. And all these are bonuses. So we always like to give back to our patrons. Thank you so much for supporting us. Over here. Yeah. Whoa, I didn't say boners.
Yeah, you did.
No, I mistranslated what you said intentionally.
Yeah, no,
for the jokes.
That is super duper cool of anybody to support us for, much less, a month for sure, but a whole year. That's incredible. So thank you. Big thank you. Hopefully you guys dig the pins. I think they look pretty cool. Randy, you also did a great job designing those fucking enamel pins.
Oh, so keep going, please.
Thanks for being on the team. Yeah.
And that new hashtag hard with us t-shirt, Randy, which is now available on TeePublic. Are they still on sale? They were 35% off yesterday, maybe.
Yeah, it was a flash sale. I don't think they're on sale anymore, but
I think they might be.
Oh, really?
Okay.
I'm checking now, but I thought I saw that they were still. I might be wrong, but Yeah, it looks like they're still on sale from what I can see.
Still on sale.
Oh, yeah.
They have pretty frequent sales on TeePublic anyway,
do.
but yeah, get yours while you can at a discounted price for
That's
sure.
a good chunk of change, 35% off.
Yeah.
It is. So, I mean, I gotta bet those savings are just passed directly onto you, the consumer. I mean, my God, what an amazing deal!
Oh, corporate.
We're learning how to become salesmen, politicians.
Guys, I went to a seminar this weekend, and I can safely say that I am ready to be your businessman.
Businessman Gandhi over here. Juice, I believe we have some YouTube and Twitch news.
Yeah, so we are still playing video games on Twitch. If you tuned in last week, you saw we were not playing Hello Neighbor. In fact, we played Friday the 13th with your boy Bobby Jarvis once again. Bob, did you kill anybody that time? I know he escaped most of us.
I killed one person. I obviously just don't know how to play video games because I kept grabbing people and then just holding on to them and not
That's
murdering
true.
them, and then they'd
Bob
get away.
had not assigned any of his kill slots, so he should have been hacking at us.
Yeah.
But there are some like automated kills where you can do like the sweet animations. But Bob hadn't assigned any, so he's just clicking an empty button.
Yeah, it's
trying
just
to kill.
slamming
Oh,
buttons
Bobby.
and doing nothing.
Oh, Bobby.
Just yelling at the clouds. Why?
You know what's the worst thing about all this for me is that I would love to play with you guys, and I do have access to Friday the 13th, the game. It's on a Switch though, and I cannot play. So like, if I were to buy that game, I would just be like sadly slashing co-eds on my own
Yeah.
time with no friends.
Damn
It's
cross-platform limitations.
bullshit.
Yeah.
But Bobby Jarvis has a secret project he's going to be working on tomorrow night. So there are some open slots. So this will probably be your last. This is our last planned Friday the 13th gameplay. So if you would like to play, I will announce it on Instagram. That's my social platform of choice these days. If you want to play, put your gamer tag on there and I'll add you until the slots fill up pretty much. We'll play Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So if you are available Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, you have an Xbox, we're playing on Xbox, put your gamer tag on Instagram and I will add you and you can play with the hashtag Hard With Us Crew, playing some Friday the 13th. So this will be our last planned one because next month starts in a week and we'll be playing a new video game, which I guess I'll announce next week.
Yeah. Cool. Lots of new stuff. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the housekeeping actually.
House is clean.
Whoa. I forgot to mention, I always forget to mention this. I'm a terrible, terrible salesman. I need to hire Randy Gandy G. Landy business.
Yes, you do. And let me tell you the 6 units of reason why. No, go ahead.
If you want to watch us on Twitch, you can tune in live at twitch.tv/Straight Chilling Podcast. Thank you, Randy.
You are
Well,
welcome.
hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
G Landy Incorporated. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Hey Randy, what you been watching?
Ooh, this is another week where I haven't been watching too much of great substance, just the odd episode of like a Jeopardy or some such. I did get to go to a music festival or a day of it yesterday at the 350 Fest, which is put on by a brewing company called 350 Brewing Company here in the suburbs of Chicago. And several of bands that I really, really love, including one that I am deeply in love with called The Menzingers played.
Yeah.
And they had The Menzingers, they had Iron Chic, We Are the Union, a lot of people that I am familiar with from going to the fest in Florida, in Gainesville. And I love them. I loved it. I had a great time. I deeply recommend listening to the Menzingers' new singles. They have a new song. Somehow they always hit exactly like the feeling that I'm having in their lyrics right when they release it. They have a song that came out called America, You're Freaking Me Out. And yeah, it's as good as it sounds. And let's see what else. Becky has been an avid fan of Orange is the New Black, which I haven't kept up with greatly, but I did watch the last few episodes. And they're pretty fucking heartbreaking in their own way. They have a little bit of hope at the end, but it's a pretty sad state of affair because a lot of that stuff is based in reality, private prison complex and all that shit. So I've been slowly working my way through Mindhunter. It's been going great. I love it, and I don't really want to comment more on it until I probably finish it up. But other than that, there's one other thing that I watched, which is kind of like pretty heavy. So stand by for some heaviness here. There's a documentary on Netflix called Life Overtakes Me, and I think it's new, which I watched. It's like 40 minutes long, and it's about these refugees. You know how Sweden has taken in a lot of refugees during this crisis that's been happening. Well, a lot of kids, like over 200 kids, I think they said, have been diagnosed with this thing called resignation syndrome, which is basically like after a big traumatic event, like being in a situation where your parents are getting beaten up and murdered and raped and so forth, and escaping that, and then going to a country where your like ability to stay there is constantly undermined, and you're not really sure if you're going to be able to stay there or if you're going to be sent back. These kids to develop this situation where basically it's like being in a comatose state. Like they just lie there. They're not completely asleep or anything. Like their eyes flutter and they can almost look around, but they just don't respond to anything naturally. And so far, the only thing that, like, at least according to this documentary, the only thing that has brought kids out of this is it's the absence of hope that keeps them there. Literally, it's a psychological thing where if you tell them that, like in one girl's case, the truth that you've been accepted into your new country and you're not going to be thrown back to the wolves, so to speak, then they start to slowly sort of come out of this thing. It's like physically manifested hopelessness in children, and it's happening a lot. So, like I said, extremely heavy.
That's awful.
And extremely enlightening and awful. But yeah, it's a good fucking documentary. It really like kind of blew my mind. So I wanted to bring that one up for that reason. Sorry.
Cool.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Is there anything else? Or?
The Menzingers, great song.
Yeah, I dig on that song. Juice, what have you been watching, sir?
So last night I'm really tired this morning because I just had to finish Mindhunter. It got into one of the, which hasn't happened in a while. Like I have to finish the show, but I don't know. I think there's 9 episodes total in the newest season, and I probably started last night, maybe episode 6. So maybe I watched 3 hours worth of it, and actually sometimes they're a little longer than an hour. I'm not sure what the season finale was, but it was I think I ended around 2 a.m. I was like, God damn, I got to get up in 5 hours to do the cast. But yeah, I finished that one, and it was really great. It was weird because I found myself really sympathizing with Holden, and that's weird based on kind of last season. He was such a pompous kind of asshole or whatever. But the things that happened to him in this season, I was just man, that would really chap my ass, or that I don't know. I found myself really relating to him or sympathizing with his position, and so
asshole.
No, just that she has to deal with. But yeah. It's good, man. It was a good season, and I really enjoyed that show. And they were already kind of setting up, I guess, next season, which is exciting. They're kind of teasing for next season. So I'm sure that's already in the works.
I just can't wait. I just want to watch more Tench. Just show me Tench all the time. That is a fun character to watch do his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did a great job. Like you're saying, we got to see Manson this season and Son of Sam, and it's just I don't know. The acting is great in this movie, and the casting and everything is great. So that's mainly what I've been watching. I'm excited. The new posters already came in for it. So nice. It's a couple weeks away, but I was just oh my God, because there hasn't been much out, at least in Korea, in movie theaters. I haven't been to the theaters in a while. So I got the new It posters out. So that'll be coming up for a poster giveaway when we cover It or whatever. Tune in for that. But I'm excited. Get back in the theater. Spooky season. It's official. Am I right?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. It's happening.
Woo. It's really happening.
It's really happening.
It's the season for teasing. My nephew told me today, he's 8, and he wants to go as Pennywise for Halloween.
Nice.
I was very stoked. He's not seen the movies because he's 8, but he just sees the commercials.
That's good.
He sees the commercials on TV and stuff, and he's like, what do you know about Pennywise? And he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, you know Pennywise? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, how do you know? It's 8 years old, knows everything. He's surprised that that anybody has seen the preview other than him. I was like, dude, we're going to make you the scariest 8-year-old clown in the world.
Hey,
Hey,
Bob.
You're back.
Had a little private show for a minute there.
Okay. So let me talk about what I've been watching now, I guess.
Hang on, real quick. You were talking about a little Pennywise. When I first came to Korea, it was 2017, and that's when the first A came out. And my first Halloween festival I attended here in Korea, there was legit, I have a picture of it somewhere. Maybe I'll throw it up on the Instagram. Like a baby Pennywise. I mean, she was probably maybe like 2, but she was like on her dad's shoulders at this like Halloween festival. And it's like so fucking precious, but she's fucking Pennywise the clown, which is dope as shit. But yeah, it's just like super adorable. It's just like tiny little Pennywise. But so yeah, I'll throw that up.
Cool. Yeah, I finished Mindhunter last season or last week rather. It's great. I won't continue on because everybody else has already gushed. But I did a bit of a double feature with Mikey on Friday. We watched Ghost House and Witchery, which is like
Witchery.
It's a double feature that was put out by Scream Factory a little while ago, and something interesting about these is they're Italian productions, and they were released in Italy. Ghost House was called La Casa 3, and Witchery was La Casa 4, and they were like unofficial sequels to the first 2 Evil Dead movies, which were La Casa 1 and La Casa 2 in Italy. So they came out right before the Army of Darkness movie came out in America. And Italy back in the day was a country that just did not give much of a shit about like rights at all. They would just make sequels to American movies. So that's one of these situations here. Ghost House, and to be clear, like these are pretty much unrecognizable as Evil Dead movies in any way. But Ghost House was pretty great. It's like hilariously Italian. For some reason, like Italian movies like to pretend that they're set in Boston. I don't know why that is. But Ghost House is like set in Boston. There's this guy like operating a ham radio, and he picks up this frequency, and like somebody's like screaming for help, and he somehow traces where it came from, and it's this old spooky house, and they roll up in there, and it's haunted, of course, by this little girl and this like evil looking clown doll, all poltergeist clown doll, and they just start murdering people. It's good. Okay. Witchery actually has Linda Blair and David Hasselhoff in it.
What?
Which is a weird cast, but it's largely nonsensical and not particularly interesting in any way.
Great.
Yeah.
There are 7 La Casa movies.
Holy shnikes.
I'm looking at some now.
I gotta watch
the rest. They're all other movies.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also watched the first episode of that new Danny McBride HBO series called The Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, how's that?
It's great. The first episode is great. I really enjoyed it. It's hilarious and disgusting, and Danny McBride is just a massive piece of shit like he usually is. So if you like his brand of humor and like, if you like Vice Principals or Eastbound and Down, you'll probably get a kick out of this. Also, it's got
as long as it's not in a Halloween movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Justin, don't watch it, because obviously you don't appreciate his brand of humor.
I love Danny McBride, and I love his type of humor. I don't want it forced into my Halloween movies, but I like it.
The last thing I want to mention is I watched a couple episodes of the What We Do in the Shadows TV series, which that full season is now on Hulu if you're interested in watching it. That show just it's so much better than I feel like it should be. Like it's like really like every episode is like super fresh and like kind of differentiates itself. And like they introduce these new characters, and there's this one episode where they pull in like vampires from other properties, and they like Skype Wesley Snipes. It's super funny, and I haven't finished the season yet, but from what I've seen, I super highly recommend you check it out, especially if you like the movie. It's hilarious. It's good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all I've been watching this week. Let's go ahead and get into the main event, talk about Army of Darkness, and kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
What's on the back of the box? So we've got Army of Darkness from 1992. directed by Sam Raimi, written by Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi. The synopsis is as follows. Bruce Campbell, Ash, played by Bruce Campbell, is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, where he must battle an army of the dead and retrieve the Necronomicon so he can return home.
Whoa.
So, have you guys seen this movie before? What is your relationship with this movie, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, why don't you kick us off?
Have we seen this before? Get out of here.
Well, I know you have.
Yes, I have seen this film before. I do recommend it for horror purists. It's necessary viewing, I think. And, I mean, if you want to watch Bruce Campbell, this is a good damn movie to watch, because this is just Bruce Campbell just hamming it as hard as he can in any direction he can. He just hams it up real good. So yeah, if that's your jam, check it out for sure. I can't think of a great reason for any horror fan not to watch this. You just kind of gotta
Hail to the king, baby.
You just gotta watch.
You gotta watch it. Juice, what about you?
Mr. Hotcakes has some hot takes today, boys, because this was my pick, so I won the poll pick.
Okay,
of course.
We get it.
I'm satisfied for that level of attention you're affording yourself. You need more.
Well, the reason I picked this is because I had never seen this movie before. And I think it's going to be an interesting episode, because so much this movie has such a reputation, and I had never seen Evil Dead 2 before we covered it on this cast. It's been 4 years now, and part of it was that intrigue of when we watched Evil Dead 2, that also has a huge reputation. And at the time, we had just started the cast pretty much, but I wasn't about it that much. And then recently, I guess maybe end of last year, I tried to watch that Ash vs. the Evil Dead show, and was even saying on this show, man, I can't really get into this very much. The humor is not really for me. I'm not really digging it, but everybody says oh, this is a great thing. So I was like, man, Army of Darkness is this classic that kind of continues along, this franchise, and I've never seen it before. And I was like, we need to cover it on the cast. I need to talk about it from a standpoint that's not a nostalgia standpoint. And I think that's going to be interesting. Maybe people are going to tear me apart once this episode is finished. But
now they are.
Well, yeah, but you
Yo,
can't.
she-bitch.
I don't know. You can't stop the juice.
Lord knows you tried. Just talk to OJ about that shit.
So I had never seen this movie before. I don't agree that it's a necessary watch for horror fans. I mean, it has a reputation. And that was mainly my intrigue, is I had to watch it because of the reputation. But if you didn't grow up with this film, I definitely don't think it's a necessary viewing for horror fans. In fact, part of my thing is going to be, is this even a horror movie?
Right, yeah. Well, that's all very interesting to hear, Justin. Yeah, I've seen this movie. I've seen this movie a handful of times before, and I think my first exposure to it, as well as kind of all the Evil Dead movies, was they used to play on the Sci-Fi Channel, and my dad was always watching Sci-Fi, so it would just sort of be on in the background when I was a kid, running around the house, and I'd see bits of it here and there. And my dad would be laughing, and there'd be blood and guts on the screen. And I was like, how is this funny to any human being? This is weird. But now I get a kick out of all the movies. I get it. You grow up and you get the humor of it. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Evil Dead trilogy is in its entirety is definitely sort of required viewing. Even if it's not totally your bag, I think it's worth watching all of them at least once. Even Army of Darkness here, which is definitely more of a comedy than it is anything else. But we can continue on with that conversation. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that spoiler warning in case you haven't seen this movie previously. And we'll get into it. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right, Justin. Here we go again.
Well, okay. Well, honestly, I was having these as I was watching this movie for the first time and not really knowing honestly much about it, except for I knew it was like a medieval setting. So that was something that intrigued me as well, because I was like, what the? Because I'd seen Evil Dead 2 when we covered it. And there's just not a lot of horror movies in general covered from, that time period or that setting. Yeah. So that was intriguing. The thing is, watching this whole movie, I was just kept having flashbacks. Honestly, it's weird to like kind of mention, but of our Jurassic Park episode, to the point to where I was like, this is not a horror movie, because I was on the other end of the Jurassic Park argument where we were like, is it a horror movie? And my whole argument was like, okay, Jaws is considered this horror classic, and what's the big difference? And we talked about the score. The score in Jaws is like specifically set to like horror, where it builds the tension and everything, whereas Jurassic Park is more built around kind of like this adventure, this big tempo kind of score, and it like, dude, the score in this is a fantasy comedy movie, and the score even supports that. Like, if you're saying like Jurassic Park is not a horror movie, it's adventure, this like saying that this is a horror movie, there is nothing more horror in this movie that can't be found in like a Lord of the Rings type movie or something. This is a fantasy or even the thing that kept like reminding me of this movie was Princess Bride. I was like, oh my God, this is like right around kind of like a Princess Bride kind of thing. And they even had some disturbing like creatures in Princess Bride and themes and stuff like that too. And I was like, this is not... This, to me, like just taking it at flat value, this is not a horror movie. This is a fantasy comedy. And that's, and the score supports that. Like everything supports that. So this like horror classic, especially when Jurassic Park's not, it's adventure or what, it's like, dude, this is...
Jurassic Park literally says on the box in the tagline that it's an adventure, but we don't need to go back.
I know, but when we dissected it and the arguments and like what we were talking about and stuff like that, especially when we're like comparing it to Jaws, and we're like, well, the score, it's different. It builds, and it was like the score. I was specifically like in this movie, it's like like some of the scenes, like it's so goofy and it's so light that it's like, I don't know. I didn't really consider this a horror movie. Like, there's skeletons in it, but they're like goofy as shit.
I'm just gonna go ahead and put this out there. There is no conversation that I'm less interested in than whether or not I'm sick of the horror purity test. I don't give a fuck. This movie has enough horror elements, and it's part of a horror franchise for me to consider it in a horror podcast. I don't really like even Jurassic Park. I don't really give a fuck, to be honest. I just want to talk about the movie.
No, I know, but it was just flashes of that. Like as I was watching this, I was like, there's skeletons in it, and it's attached to Evil Dead, which in itself was goofy or whatever, but was set around like this haunted cabin and people got obsessed. But I was like, really, like the elements of it that would be like horror, like, oh, like they're skeletons and they're dead. I was like, that's literally like in any fantasy, like movie or even video game, like that's like a trope of like these walking skeletons and stuff like that. So there's nothing that I could point to. I could be like, this is the horror element. Like it really felt like along the lines of The Princess Bride. Like it was comparable to me, honestly.
Well, I think if there's any hair to split on the genre of this movie, I think Rob's right. Like this is a comedy. This is a slapstick comedy before it's anything else. And I think, I don't know. Here's my take on this movie, and I'm just gonna I'm assuming that if you're listening to this podcast, you have a general idea at least of what the plot of this is. Ash goes back in time. He's basically the chosen one, but he doesn't want to be, and he ends up fighting a battle against an evil version of himself who is like taking control of the Deadites, the demons. So that's the baseline of the story. There's a love interest. It's not really that good.
It's not. It's not at all.
But like the thing, this is out of the 3 original Evil Dead movies, this is definitely my least favorite. I don't really like, this is the one that seems so out of place. It's the Back to the Future 3 of horror for me. Like it's like, I'm willing to go back into the well and I can have a good time with it, but it doesn't fit for me. And it doesn't have all of the telltale things that I loved about the first 2, especially in this case. The second one is my favorite because it is a perfect like middle point of the good parts of both of these movies. It's goofy enough that it has some of those funny beats, but that's offset by some actual like spooky stuff that they put in there, as well as some like just I don't know, eerie tempo and things like that. I like the Evil Dead 2 by far the best, and I like Evil Dead 1 second in that order. So I'm just gonna put that out there as that's where I stand on this. It's never really changed. Every viewing has kind of confirmed that belief for me. And as far as this movie itself, one thing I don't like about it is that it does skimp on the horror elements, and it does make the horror elements more goofy, so goofy to the point where I'm not that interested. It turns like a lot of the humor of Evil Dead 2 comes from Bruce Campbell reacting to insane events happening around him and basically like fighting with his sanity. And that's where the scene with him in the laughing cabin, that's like my favorite scene in the whole series, because it's like, it's perfect. It's a perfect middle point of everything. And it's like that the humor of that situation comes from him losing his shit, or about to lose his shit in this insane situation. In this movie, the humor seems to be they want it to come from, like, they want him to be Wolverine or an anti-hero. And I don't like, I think that they play that off well in Ash vs. Evil Dead, where they turn that into, but he's a huge blowhard. But in this movie, they almost try and play it straight, almost too straight. He's too good at what he does. And it's like, in order for you to like think that him saying like, oh, the only thing you're in charge of is Jack and shit, and Jack left town. Are we supposed to think that's a clever line?
Yeah.
And Ash versus Evil Dead, that would definitely meet an eye roll from Pablo. But like everything else is like, everything else in this movie is kind of like in that weird quasi area where they want Ash to be something that was never what I wanted him to be, which is like on top of things in any way. He's still a goofball and he still fucks up, and like that's part and parcel to his character. He's still Don Quixote in that way, but it's not like they try and make him a badass, and he just never was. Like they try to give him badass elements. The badassery that comes out of any Ash scene in the previous two movies has come out of necessity and out of like sheer like mind fuck that he's going through. Like him saying groovy is more of slip of the brain than it is him trying to sound cool in a montage. This movie, it sounds like the opposite. So that's my biggest complaint with this movie. I just want to put that out early.
He's basically an action hero in this movie, and the kind of the irony of this being the least horrific of the Evil Dead trilogy movies is that on IMDb it is categorized as a comedy horror. They actually put horror for this movie.
Wow.
Which it's very much a comedy. So like it's got that whole like Three Stooges vibe going on with like the eye,
which is a Sam Raimi classic,
and the head knocking, and so I mean it's like that level of comedy, which is like very base.
Slapstick.
Yeah, and you've got Bruce Campbell who's delivering these one-liners, which is very much sort of like an action hero trope. Like that's kind of what they do. His one-liners are definitely like goofier, but intentionally goofier. But you're right, like even when he does mess up, it's not like catastrophically, and he always manages to get himself out of the situation. And like the girl falls for him, and he still just like leaves her ass behind, like he could be less interested, you know. And he just like he goes back to where he comes from just because it's what he knows. And like Ash as a character doesn't evolve. That's sort of like his thing. Like he just never changes.
That's what's great, is they make that the case in Ash versus Evil Dead. That's one of the things I like about that show, is they solidify that, but they do it with every intentionality, with every eye roll in place. You know what I mean? The show knows this, the audience knows this, and they're all winking at each other the whole time. Whereas in this one, it's not really clear that that's what they're aiming for, to me.
Right. Yeah, I feel that. They're kind of sussing it out, and I think the TV show really does like fine tune Ash as a character and how people are supposed to react to him in real time. And this is like, I just like the cabin setting. Like I've never been way into fantasy per se. So like in general, I enjoy this movie because it's funny, and you know Ash says dumb things, but I'm not crazy about this setting of like the medieval castle and stuff. One thing that I did find out, and I don't know if this is going to blow up a little bit of your trivia or not, but this was initially intended to be the second installment in the franchise. They're going to call it medieval, like the medieval dead. Yeah. So, but
which is a great title, by the way. And the studio nixed that.
I'm glad they did, so that we got Evil Dead 2. You know?
Well, I just meant the title. Yeah, Evil Dead 2 is essential for me. But the Medieval Dead is a much better title for this, and the studio like wouldn't even let them call it Evil Dead 3 Army of Darkness. They forced them to call it just Army of Darkness, just further like differentiating it from the previous two.
Different
to the point where it's like they retcon the first two movies, which is like a common like happened in Evil Dead 2 as well, but to such an extent in this movie that you don't need any of the other movies for Army of Darkness to be for you to be a fan of this movie. Like, you really don't need any of the other ones. I'm glad the other ones exist, though. I prefer them. So. Yeah.
My favorite part of this movie probably was when, like, at the end of the movie where he finally goes back to, like, home, and he's back in the S-Mart, and he's, like, telling people of his adventure and stuff, and then, Deadite pops up, Hail to the King, shoots her, whatever. And I was like, man, I wish I just had, like, another 30 minutes of him, like, kicking ass in S-Mart, For some reason, I just like that setting,
I was kind of surprised at like how thin this movie was. It's essentially 3 acts, and there's really not a whole lot of meat to it, to be honest. Like as like a film or storyline, and it really hangs its hat on. And this is one thing that's like kind of tough for me seeing this for the first time. It's really thin, kind of plot wise or sense wise or anything like that, and it hangs its hat on like Bruce Campbell being like endearing, I guess, or like I don't find this like zany type of comedy endearing. Sometimes I got a good like chuckle out of it. There were a couple that I wrote down. I was like, oh, that was like mildly amusing to me, but I don't find it endearing in a way. And it was something that I struggle with, like Ash vs. the Evil Dead. And so to me, it like was a bit of a slog to get through because there's nothing else to really like hang your hat on other than like some cool special effects. Like this does have like some cool moments of really interesting special effects that are like cool to look at, and then like some gore sometimes, but it's like 3 acts, and he shows up, and it's when he first shows up to the castle, and then he goes on his quest to find like the book, and then the battle at the end. Like that's the movie, and it's like pretty sparse, and it's just really weird. It's not like with the little people, like the little versions of him.
The Gulliver Travel thing.
What is this? Like I was very surprised and taken back given the reputation of this movie. And I see so many times people are like, we have a Hotline Scream tonight, people post on the Slack, it's like they grew up with this movie. Oh, this reminds me of high school. Oh, the nostalgia. And it's like, I don't have that. And like viewing it for the first time, it's just like, this is not very endearing to me. Like it's silly, it's like zany, and like I don't find that particularly intriguing myself. Like I don't know, so like I just like didn't have like an amazing time with this movie.
So part of like also what made the first two great was that they were so high level like gore, and this movie does a little of that, like with the pit that just blasts blood out, which is
that was dope.
That
was great.
But they just kind of like then it feels like and it probably was budgetary, but like they have so many damn like skeletons that have no blood, and there's no visceral pain like you watch when Cheryl's leg gets stabbed with the pencil in Evil Dead 1. Like there's no like gut visceral reaction moments really. And I think that's where the horror really drops, is when it comes to like feeling like your character that you're assigned to, that you're attached to, is actually struggling. It just doesn't feel like that here. This movie, like generally to me, I thought this when I was watching. It's like it seems like a combination of Hercules, the TV show, Hercules or Xena. It's like that mixed with an Iron Maiden album cover and a Three Stooges short. Like if you combine those things, that's what this movie is. And for me, like only one of those things is like truly something I want to see, which is, or not even like it's just something. The combination just doesn't perfectly work for me. It does work well enough to where I enjoy it and I'll watch it again and again, and I have. Part of that is nostalgia, though. You're right to that point. Like there's a nostalgic element to this, but to like even as a kid, even when I first watched this series when I was like 13 or whatever, like the first two were clearly my favorites, and I was like, oh, I guess people like this one. It's good, I enjoy it, but it doesn't really seem like it's even part of the same series, except that Bruce Campbell gets to be Bruce Campbell a little bit, or gets to do the Bruce Campbell thing, which is great. which I find endearing anyway, but that's not really enough for me. I wanted the horror elements to be stronger.
Have you guys ever seen Jason and the Argonauts?
Yeah, many years ago.
I've never seen it, but it's got that like skeleton, like claymated skeleton kind of thing.
Yeah, the stop motion skeletons and stuff. Yeah,
which is where this movie kind of pulls some influence from. I haven't seen it though, so I don't have much to say on that.
I mean, that's really like the look of that movie was really like important, just like cinema, like special effects history, and I think that's primarily what they're drawing from in this.
And that's the thing about this, and it's something that, like, kind of like what you touched on with the gore and stuff. So, like, there are moments in this film where it looks really cool and very interesting. Like, when the eye pops up on his shoulder is one thing that stuck out to me. When he does and even I kind of like this humor when he's looking through the books and it, like, sucks his face in or whatever, and his, like, face. Like, that looks great from a practical effects, like, standpoint. And then even like you said, when I saw the pit of blood, I was like, got a little excited and perked up, and I was like, okay, like, you know, I can get behind this element of it. But then the skeletons, like, I'm sure it like pulled from something else and like looked great for the time, but it like now it didn't age well. And like where like the face and the eye like still look great, but like when they're doing that weird like the little people thing, and you can like tell it like it just didn't age well and it doesn't look great. And it's like you're like, I agree, like, God, I really wish they would have leaned into the gore, because the skeletons, like the way that they look, like it looks super dated now and not that interesting, and it's like that took away from it a lot too.
The best looking deadites in this movie to me are the ones right at the begining in the pit, those two, and then the old woman that like casts a warning, and then I guess at the very end in the S-Mart. Those are the best ones. I don't even think like Evil Ash, like as a kid, it did not, like, I was not understanding that was supposed to be Evil Ash. I just thought that was a deadite. And
I mean, you see him like it's him, or really somebody blast him with a shotgun. But it's not obviously clear after that.
Which they did intentionally so that they could have hand-to-hand battles and it'd be not harder to track.
But like if you came in halfway through the movie and you didn't see that scene, you'd have no idea. There'd be no way to know.
And then as far as, let's talk about love interest here, because that poor woman, she is set dressing. She might as well be in a lot of these scenes. It sucks because she's like, at the beginning, she clearly has like some sort of like personal like thing against King Henry's men or against the Deadites, as you find out. And then like as soon as Ash like kills a couple Deadites, everyone in the town, including her, just bend over backwards for him. And it's this weird moment where it's like they really just wanted to get that shot of Bruce being fed grapes by beautiful women in the 18th century or whatever it was.
Give me some sugar, baby.
But like, it just doesn't make any logical sense. And I guess maybe I'm spoiled because the biggest fantasy thing I watched was Game of Thrones. And despite all things wrong with that, they at least had aspirations towards realism in terms of how people carried themselves and why people did certain things and motivations. And in this show, it's all in service to making Ash the hero that he doesn't want to be. So, I mean, and there's a poetry to that, I guess, but it's just so like whiplashy to me to watch her go from hating his guts and spitting in his face to like bending over backwards to like make nice with him, to then like being a love interest because she's willing to slap him. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's just a weird male fantasy,
thin,
and it's just pretty thin. And, when she becomes evil too, it's like it kind of amounts to nothing, is what it comes down to. And
it doesn't resonate in any way for me. And it's just, I don't know. Again,
it's just a way to throw a gear and a monkey wrench into the works of the battle later on, where he's killing it. He's got like his Plymouth tank or whatever, and he's got his fucking
The Delta.
He's got his like exploding arrows and catapults and all this shit that's working beautifully. And then they just needed something to like throw into the mix to like throw that off its axis. And they decided, well, he needs a love interest anyway. We need to like, it's the studios in the 90s. So, they're like, put a woman in there and make him put a love interest in there, goddammit, and make sure that it's a beautiful love. And it just doesn't make sense. It just happens so quickly and inorganically that it just feels pointless to even have her in the movie, unfortunately. And she does a decent enough job with the part she's given. She's just not given anything weighty.
No, yeah. And even to like just him as a character, it's like, I don't care if he ends up with the girl or not. He's kind of a chode, like, honestly. Like, yeah. I mean, because they don't because they don't have that aspect where nobody questions him or nobody calls him on his bullshit, and they are trying to play like he's like the badass. It comes off as like he's just a chode. Like, it's like, well, some of this stuff is like really, it could be funny if it were like counterbalanced, but it's not.
That's why the series works for me, is because you have Pablo and I forget her name. What's the woman's name in that? I can't remember. I'm sorry. But like the two like sidekick characters are there to counterbalance him in his bullshit. Like, yeah, he can make some badass moves and say some dumb one-liners that semi-land, because you can then cut to them going like, fucking Bruce or whatever, fucking goddamn Ash. But in this movie, like, everybody's just so awestruck because he's a man from the future, for starters, like, that they don't really have the opportunity to be like, you suck, you know, why are you such an asshole? Like, and when they do, he just like then does something even more badass or says a one-liner that gets you on his side again. And it just, I don't know. Those are things that I have a problem with. But in the rest, like, I like the like Three Stooges stuff in this movie. I love Bruce Campbell's face getting elongated. I love I love a skeleton fist going into his mouth. Like, I love all that shit. And I love the Lilliputians, the little people, like doing My Fair Lady and all this ridiculous shit, and him doing London Bridge is falling down and drinking hot boiling water. Yeah, I think that's a fun scene. I enjoy the fuck out of that. And it didn't sequence at all. Yeah. Just because, like, and none of the scenes that have like green screen or like a backing screen, none of those really, like, you can tell in high def. Unfortunately, they just didn't need it because of technology's, you know, advancement. But that said, like, I still think they're charming and scrappy, and that's the thing that I love best about all these movies, is when they feel scrappy. And like when Ash seems like a scrappy dude who's just rolling with punches and like making comments to keep his sanity, and then when the movie feels like it's really like just throwing things together, like a geyser of blood, really, that's so fucking charming, because there's not that much there's not that much blood in Tin Men, like, obviously. But one dude gets thrown down there, and after a few seconds of silence, he just blows up, and then Ash gets thrown down there, and they proceed to have a fist fight instead of exploding into blood. So, like, yeah, I like it when it's like ridiculous in that way.
Me too. The beginning scene is probably the best part, and that Delta, like the car, I think that was like Sam Raimi's actual car. It's been in all the Evil Dead movies. I love that for some reason the car just goes into the past with him. Like, it's unexplained. Just gets sucked into that portal. Like, why would that happen at all? But
only that and like him. Those are the only things that make it.
And of course,
I love that there's like a chemistry book and a basic mechanics book in the trunk,
and among other things. Ash reads Fangoria.
That's one of the trivias. Fangoria.
Yeah. I don't know. There's not like much plot to talk about. Did you guys happen to see the alternate ending, which is like the original ending?
I did, yeah, which is better in my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I only saw where he kills all of them in the mart or whatever.
Yeah,
it's smart.
What the original ending was intended to be was he takes the Delta and he goes into like a cave, and they blow up the entrance of the cave, and like the rocks fall down, it like seals itself, and then he takes the potion and he says the words, and he falls asleep in the Delta, and he sleeps for
He takes one too many drops of the potion.
Right, yeah. He sleeps for far too long. Yeah. And he wakes up, and he's got this huge beard, and he crawls out from the rocks, and like it's basically the apocalypse has occurred, and like the earth is in ruins, and he's just like, oh no, I slept too long.
Yeah.
Which is very...
I mean, I kind of like... There's a charm to the S-Mart scene for sure, but I do like that.
Which is very much, if you guys... I don't know if you guys have seen all of the show, but that's kind of where the end of the third season leaves off. Is like, you know, the post-apocalyptic Ash, and he's riding
I have not seen... it.
Oh, well, it's
Bob.
Well,
it's pretty much that scene is all I was going to say. So you have
them eggs
seen
are
it.
broke, I guess.
But I was so bummed when the show got canceled because you were like finally gonna see what would have happened like in an Evil Dead 4, but in TV version, and it freaking got canceled, which is such a bummer, man. I was so excited. But anyway, yeah, that's out there if you want to check it out. I don't know what else we need to talk about. Is there anything else you guys like really wanted to?
Hand.
You want to talk about the hand? Which hand?
He made a hand. He makes.
Oh yeah, he definitely makes.
I don't know. I guess a lot of I guess what
in a classic Randy was Newman shot.
Yeah, what Randy was saying is it just kind of like erases. It just feels like a movie that doesn't feel very attached to the original movies, and even the fact it's like, oh, he just cut off his hand. It's like, oh, he just makes a robotic one in 1319 or whatever. I mean, it's just like so. Yeah, in like 5 seconds, and
none of this movie makes any sense.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I know. It's just like I don't, and that I guess that's the thing. I don't hold it like when I'm just watching it as a movie, I can't be as forgiving because I can't just be like, well, that's dumb, that's dumb, that's dumb. Once all the dumb things keep piling up, it just becomes a pile of dumb. Like,
all right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
When you're watching it for the first time and you don't have like nostalgia, you're not like really attached to like the Evil Dead series, it just becomes a pile of like dumb things, and it's really kind of skimpy, and it's just like. There's not a whole lot to it, honestly. Like, I wasn't impressed. For as much attention that this movie gets, I wasn't impressed.
Well, the thing that makes this movie such a classic to people is partially nostalgia, but it's partially because what?
No, go ahead. I'm just having fun with my soundboard.
Oh, okay, great. I did not know that. I cannot hear that on my end.
I wish you could.
But yeah. Yeah, it's Bruce though. It's Ash's performance. Like people, especially in the '90s, like think about what nerd culture was like then. Fucking Wolverine calling people bub. That was the hero people wanted back then. The wisecracking son of a bitch anti-hero type, and they got it. They turned the lead character of their favorite horror movie into that character, and but also kind of a blowhard in a comedic sense, almost like a parody of that role, but not so clearly defined in my opinion. But it was there; you could see it, and I think that's why people liked it, because it was that time and like in the culture where people wanted more anti-heroes, but they also wanted to take the piss out of anti-heroes a little bit. It was just like a confluence of moments in that time. This is a very early '90s movie. It just is.
Yeah.
All the way down to the fucking soundtrack, it sounds very early '90s. It looks like Hercules, for Christ's sake. It looks like Xena.
Yeah.
I mean,
who ironically came back for the TV show.
Exactly. Lucy Lawless.
Yeah, Lucy Lawless.
Great in that show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's reasons why it's so popular, and I can see like why, like watching it in 2019. For the first time, it would not sit the same way. It's just cultural difference, I think, at this point, as well as a lack of nostalgia. And all those dumb things you said, like, to a certain point, like, you're right. Like, it really just is how you roll off of it. Like, there's a big pile of dumb things, but you can roll off of it, like, gracefully and just be like, what a charming piece of schlock this is. This is silly and fun. Yeah. Or you can say, like, and it's clearly intentionally so. This is, like, one of the rare movies where, like, whereas we talk about Sleepaway Camp being, like, unintentionally bad, or Rob doesn't think so, but
I don't.
I think so, and I think that like that's why I like it. And typically, I like movies that try to be good and fail spectacularly. I think that's funnier. But this movie is like the rare occasion where it's the opposite is true. Like they tried, like they knew the movie they were making, and they did a bunch of dumb things, knowing they were kind of dumb, but they made them silly enough to where it's enjoyable for me. I think that even if I watched it for the first time now, I would still find the same things charming. I find some of Bruce Campbell's one-liners charming. I like some of the horror. I like the horror elements. I think they're great. I think that like the Lilliputian tiny people Gulliver's Travel thing, I think that's really endearing. I like the bad Ash, evil Ash, good Ash dynamic, even though it's kind of like it kind of devolves, I think, after their initial battle. I like all that. I like the quest for the book. I think
this is just your review, Randy.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're just doing it. We're just doing it.
That's true. I guess you could just roll right in. Just
I
play
think
the
Bob
pulpit.
was
Let me
trying a
finish.
couple times. That's
Randy, out of 5.
timid.
How you feeling about Army of
need a
Darkness?
stronger host.
We need a strong man host.
Yeah. Sure.
Let's
one that's real bold and will take charge. Grab hold of the reins.
Yep, that's what we need.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, Randy. Out of
Going
5.
forward, yeah, I think that this movie for me is a 3.5. I am to date still very upset that I was not able to join you guys on the Evil Dead 2 episode, or you would know that for me, partially because of I think it's a great movie and partially because of personal bias, that might be a 5-star movie. It's like in the 4 to 5 range for sure. And the first one is in the 4 to 5 range, probably slightly lower than 2. So like I think the whole series taken as a whole is great, and I wouldn't chop off Army of Darkness, but I do think that it's so removed in tone and setting that it doesn't quite belong, and it's got plenty of flaws that the others have managed to dodge. So for me, it's a 3.5 movie, perfectly enjoyable, necessary viewing for horror fans, but overall it's got its problems. So
cool. Juice, out of 5, how you feeling?
Yeah, I wasn't like real impressed with this movie. Mostly didn't find it very endearing. It's a comedy, and in times like I got a few good like chuckles out of it. One I wrote down was when he said like, "You got real ugly." I thought that was pretty funny when he's fighting that chick. So there were like a couple of moments where like I got like a good chuckle out of it, but I never, for a movie that's so drenched in like comedy, I never was like busting a gut. Like there was never a rat moment for me where I was like, this is so absurd and ridiculous that I'm losing my shit. Never. Like I just thought like this is kind of silly.
It's no
and
Halloween
zany
Resurrection
and wacky.
Okay.
That's definitely not intended to be funny.
For a movie that's based on like comedy, it didn't make me laugh as much as Resurrection. Now that wasn't intentional, so that's its own thing. But so yeah, I really wish I had gotten more gore. Those were my favorite parts. I agree that like that opening scene, like where he fights in the pit and like it spurts out blood, and the way that those things look, like that was the best part to me. But that's in the first 10 minutes, and then it's like done. And then like I didn't think the skeleton battle was all that intriguing. I didn't think it looked that great. When they do the practical like special effects, I thought those were fantastic, and that's why I was like kind of left with myself going like, why wasn't that the focus of this? Like the eye looked amazing, the face stretch looked amazing, and that kind of comedy struck me too. Like I got a good chuckle out of that and stuff like that. But I don't know, the in-between spots and like the sparseness of it, I didn't enjoy the little people like segment. I thought it was just like too goofy and it didn't look particularly good. So overall, I'm gonna end this movie at a 2 out of 5, and it just, without the nostalgia and watching it for the first time in this era, it just didn't strike the right chord with me.
All right, yeah, I do have a splash of nostalgia going on with this movie here. I don't think it colors like my opinion of it too much, because I do recognize that this movie for me really does like live and die by Ash's one-liners. If he didn't have all those going on, I don't know that it would have played very well, because like you get a little bit of the classic Deadites going on here, but all the other stuff that they introduce is like interesting, but it's not great. Like the little versions of Ash and how he like grows a second evil Ash. And like the Jason and the Argonauts type skeletons, like it's all interesting, but it doesn't come off as well as the practical effects that they used in the Evil Dead 2, which were, I think, probably a little less ambitious, but it seems as though in this movie they almost bit off a little more than they could chew, and you can tell it just doesn't hold up quite as well as the other two movies do. And it's very much like a full-fledged comedy, so if you were enjoying the horror aspect of those first two movies, you just don't really have that here. And there's really like there's almost no plot to speak of, which not to say that there's a ton of plot in the other Evil Dead movies, but for some reason you're just very much like rooted with Ash in that cabin in those first 2 installments, whereas like this is so fantastical that it just
the scope is so different.
You totally lose any grounding, and it's weird to say that any Evil Dead movie is grounded, but this is by far the least grounded. It's not there. So it's just sort of like you're swinging from one-liner to one-liner, and all of that is very funny, but there's not a whole lot of substance really going on here. I think they definitely refined this in the TV show. They really like kind of nail it in the TV show. I very much enjoy it. But overall, for me, I think I'm going to give this a 3 even, which is going to put our aggregate at a 2.8. So let's go ahead and get into our Rotten Tomato segment and see what the users and critics think of Army of Darkness.
Certified fresh to death.
Take it away, Juice.
All right, we are definitely prepared this week. We should be after 3 attempts.
Yep.
So, Rotten Tomatoes segment, we're going to go around the table. The boys are going to try to guess first what the critics rated Army of Darkness. Total count for critics, 47. So, pretty low count for... Very low. Yeah, for a movie with such a reputation. So, Bob, why don't you kick us off? Because you're the only face I can see on Skype right now.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us what you think the critics rated Army of Darkness?
I think probably low. I don't see this being like a critical success per se. So I'm going to go with like a 45, I think. 45?
Yeah. All right. Randy, what you got?
I mean, yeah, I got to agree with that logic. I think maybe a little higher, though, because the people reviewing this movie probably weren't... This probably wasn't reviewed by so many Eberts and Siskel's and probably a lot more of Fangoria types. So I'm going with 65.
Okay. Randy's going to take it. It's a surprising 72% from the critics. It is not certified fresh, so the critic consensus is...
Tell us.
Army of Darkness is a madcap adventure, worth taking thanks to Bruce Campbell's hammy charm and Sam Raimi's direction, although an intentional lack of shocks make this a discordant capper to the Evil Dead franchise. Bob, did you get all that?
Yes, got it. Cool.
I think that's pretty on point.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing too. Is I like like Bob was saying, like it like really relies on that kind of like hammy, like one-liner comedy, and it just didn't strike a chord with me. So when you don't have that, you don't really have much.
Yeah.
Like when that falls flat, you're like, left holding your dick a little bit. Bob and Randy. Actually, Randy's going to go first. Let's hop into the audience score. Holy shit. It's so crazy seeing like movies like this rated. User rating 218,000.
Hey.
I think last week we had like 2,000 or something. So man, their changes is like getting, or maybe it was with the scary stories to tell in the dark, man. So big difference here. So huge audience score. We'll start with Randy. What do you think?
I mean, there's no way that 200,000 isn't just like at least 75% Evil Dead stands. So I'm gonna put this pretty warm, pretty damn warm. Let's put it in the 85. Go 85.
85. Rob, do you concur?
I'll take 84.
Oh, 84. Baby, love it when you're up against that.
Randy's gonna sweep the board this week. It's a Randy week. Bob, you went the wrong way. It is 87%, so very close, Randy. So I as soon as I saw the User rating followed by like the score, my first viewing of it, I don't feel that way, but because of the reputation, so many people love this movie, and even coming into this cast, I was like, Oh man, like I didn't really like it that much. Like, and I know people love the shit of it. I mean, even before we cast it, so many people were commenting on the Slack, and like I said, we got the Hotline Scream, where people are like, "Oh my god, my high school, or I grew up on this." Like kind of, like Randy and Bob was just like, "I didn't," and like, I'm about to shit on your childhood.
Randy, do you have any trivia for us?
I do have some trivia if you would care to listen.
I do.
I want to listen.
It's totally time for trivia.
Take it away, sir.
So we already covered the name change from The Medieval Dead to Army of Darkness. Apparently it was released in UK as The Medieval Dead. And I just kind of wish that phrasing, like, it's just such a nice turn of phrase for a movie like this.
Yeah,
like, it seems like they almost
it would work perfect.
Right, it's almost to the point where I feel like they maybe had the title before they had the script. You know, and they just built the script out from there, and then found out that this title was not acceptable to the studio for whatever reason.
Strange.
No, it is. It's very strange.
Even like from a marketing standpoint, literally the entire movie takes place in medieval times, so it's not like you could like spin it any other kind of way. Yeah. It's like, why?
It's a like more descriptive title for people that have never seen any other movies, which it clearly is a consideration for this movie. Like they're clearly not paying a lot of heed to the first two. So, I mean, so in the original draft, and this doesn't expound on this, and I kind of wish I had more information on this, but in the original draft, Ash loses an eye, and I think that would have been a great scene to put this in here, and it like plays into the like badass fucking one-liner type hero anti-hero trope that they're clearly going for.
Snake Plissken.
He could have built a laser eye real quick while he was making that hand.
Or just the patch. I mean, even just the patch, it's like, okay, this is like a nice like every movie he like loses a piece of himself as he sort of transforms into this mega warrior. I like that idea, and they also would have been a horror moment. It would have been a gory horror moment, but they sorry, Ash's eye, you didn't get your day. The film sat on a shelf for a year due to a feud between Universal Pictures and the producer Dino De Laurentiis over the rights to the Hannibal Lecter character from Silence of the Lambs.
What?
Yeah, I know, because they was producing both. The film was eventually recut by Universal after the feud was settled. So, fuck.
Okay.
Where did I had more information about that? I don't know if I kept it, but Bruce Campbell was like pissed about this. He's gone on record being like, I just kind of sat on my ass for like a year waiting for this fucking movie to come out, which kind of sucks. To Rob's credit, here's another piece of trivia that says an issue of the magazine Fangoria can be seen in the car's trunk. This was director Sam Raimi showing his gratitude for the publications, including the original Evil Dead in '81 when it initially premiered. So, just some lip service for Raimi. Good for them.
That dude made Spider-Man. I thought about that when I was watching this movie. I was like, damn, what the fuck?
Spider-Man. Let's see. During the filming of the climactic sword fight at Arthur's Castle, Bruce Campbell suffered a small gash to his face when a decorative pin on his cape cut him during a stunt.
Damn.
Sucks. He was immediately taken from the Polsa Rosa Ranch location to see a plastic surgeon to assess the damage. At the examination, the doctor had to have the actual injury pointed out among the myriad of special effects scars and cuts that Ash's character accumulated during the story. Damn. Campbell was treated and returned to the set shortly after to finish the scene. So yeah, good job on the face cuts anyway.
Which one's the real one?
Yeah.
Damn.
That's funny. So Ted Raimi is in this movie, as you might have assumed. Ted Raimi is in this movie 4 times, as a matter of fact. He plays 4 characters in this fucking movie.
Damn.
He was the cowardly warrior who does not want to die, credited as that. He's the man who shouts, "You can count on my steel," is his line. He's the sword.
Oh, shit, yeah.
He's the swordsman with an eye patch.
He does that, he says, that was kind of funny. It's like, "You can count on my steel." He's literally holding like a wooden torch. He like raises this wooden torch.
He also plays a swordsman with an eye patch, and he plays the S-Mart store clerk at the end, who's just kind of like lazily listening to Bruce.
Shop smart, shop S-Mart.
So yeah, Ted, he's all up in this shit, and he is great in the fucking TV show IMO. Let's see. Sam Raimi is also
emo. You say
what?
Oh, he didn't say emo. Randy, please continue.
Okay. Sam Raimi is also in this film. He's listed among the fake shimps, and that includes Don Campbell and Charlie Campbell, the brother and father of Bruce, respectively, as knights. Although Don is a peasant in one scene as well. Saul Abrams is one of the knights. Josh Becker is a peasant near the pit. So like the cast or the crew is all up in this movie, as well as numerous people gathered for the S-Mart ending during a reshoot, including directors William Lustig and Bernard Rose. So just the crew is all up in this fucking movie. Couldn't keep them away.
Nice.
So, and then the last piece of trivia is actually about that alternate ending. To answer your, I think we got cut off from Rob for a minute, but Justin, you were telling me how you thought that there were 4 entries into the series, and there aren't. And in fact, like they solidified the ending that we got in this, like the original release, which is the S-Mart ending, by beginning the TV series, pretty much where we left off there. So yeah, there you go. That's trivia. There's plenty more, I'm sure, but that was all the news that's fit for me to poorly read.
There you go there. So, is there a cooter in this movie? Should we go cooter hunting? Find the cooter of the
drop
week?
it.
I think we should.
Cooter of the week. So...
Dude, you can take it from an old episode, Bob.
No, it's done. It's done.
What? No, it's... What? Really?
Yeah. Let's...
Okay.
Bumps are over.
If this happens to be the first time you're listening to us, we try to identify a character type known as the cooter. Justin, do you care to describe what constitutes a cooter?
What are we looking for here? Hunters unite. We need like a call to arms. We got 4 points we're on the lookout for, and a 5th ghost point. We've got smug arrogance. We've got sexual deviancy.
Sexual deviancy.
We got manipulation.
Oh.
Attire.
Oh.
And a ghost point of overall shittiness.
I think
is Bruce Campbell?
It's probably Ash. It's Ash.
The cooter?
He's one of the rare charming cooters in this movie in particular. I wouldn't say in the first 2. I would veer away from that because he's just reacting. He's not propagating anything. But in this movie, he's just straight up one-liner guy, and he's doing the cooter. He's kind of a cooter. His apparel is like the metal fucking hand is insane. There's definitely smug arrogance, like off the charts. Yes. Insane smug arrogance.
High on the smug arrogance. Okay.
The sexual deviancy, he's
not quite
shitty towards women, but I wouldn't call him a deviant.
I guess he's more of a womanizer. I guess it's not too bad.
Overall shittiness, though, I'll put it there. What was our last point? I'm losing it here.
What is it, Bob? What do you think?
We hit them all, right? Oh, you
attire, smug arrogance, manipulation.
Manipulation. Does he manipulate?
I don't think so. I think if anything, he is manipulated.
He tries to be like a smooth talker, but I don't think he's particularly successful. He tries.
Yeah,
that's what we call pillow talk.
He doesn't really actively manipulate anybody. I guess he tries to pull one over on the book by intentionally coughing through the magic words, but
stupid.
But that's just more stupidness than anything. That's more Don Quixote than anybody else. So I wouldn't give him that point, but I think he hits enough to register on the charts. He's not high on the Richter scale, but he registers for sure.
Yeah,
he's not that many He doesn't have that many Sands, but
yeah. He's a cooter for sure.
Give me some sugar, baby.
And I think that continues into the TV show to a certain extent. He's like a charming, he's a charming and overall heroic cooter, which is rarely found.
I don't find him that charming, so.
Well, I mean, eat your own butt, I guess.
Well, if I could, I would, Randy.
I know you would, buddy.
Oh my goodness. If I could, I would. Right?
If I could, I would lick my own anus every day.
I would, right?
That's a song, right?
All about getting that Bob reaction over there. Bob's just been stewing in it for a moment. YouTube exclusive. Watch Bob stew in it.
Oh no, I'm just annoyed at computer things.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and get into some horror news real quick.
Extra. Read all about it.
Let's go and read all about it. So we got some news going on here. So we have been talking fairly regularly, or at least I have anyways, about the Hulu Into the Dark series, which if you're unfamiliar, it's a Blumhouse produced anthology series where every month of the past year we've got pretty much a feature-length film that's set around whatever holiday occurs in the month that it's released. And so the last episode that's involved in the first season comes out next month, and it's officially been renewed for another year.
There you go.
Yes, so we should get another Halloween-themed episode this October, which was probably my favorite episode of the last season. So, yeah, you got that to look forward to. A whole nother year. You're going to get 12 more installments of Into the Dark, if that's what you're into.
If that's what you're into.
Dude, that's immediately what I thought. That's what you're into.
Yeah. So far, I've said this before on the show, I've only seen a handful of these episodes or these movies, and I'm a little unconvinced by what I've seen in terms of quality, but I think I like the format, and I think that it gives endless opportunities as long as they keep paying for them. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that this is a great thing, especially for filmmakers that are trying to break their way in. Gives them an opportunity to get a wide audience where there wouldn't be one otherwise. So it's only good things, even if the movies are hit or miss, I think.
I've seen a total of 0. I've just been listening to y'all be very lukewarm on this series for the past year now, which is kind of nuts.
We don't inspire a lot of confidence, probably, but
they are hit or miss though. Like there's probably like 4 or maybe 5 that I would say are definitely worth watching, and the rest you could probably skip. So
even the ones that you guys say are good though, like you never sound like super excited about them. So like you're just like, oh, that was maybe a top 5 of the series, but like you're not like, oh my god, that blew my mind.
None of them that I've seen would break into my favorite movies of the year or anything.
Yeah.
No, probably not. I do legitimately enjoy the Halloween episode, and I'll probably rewatch it this October. I don't know that I would rewatch any of the other ones per se. I definitely will rewatch that. It's totally worth watching. It's also got the actor who oh man, I can't remember his name now. He plays Pablo in Ash vs. Evil Dead. That guy. Anyway, he's in the Halloween episode of Into the Dark. He plays this millionaire dick bag who's throwing this mega awesome Halloween party. It's a good. That episode is totally worth watching if you're.
Ray Santiago's his name.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, we got another year worth of.
Kelly Maxwell is
right.
Is Dana, or I'm sorry, is the name of the character. Dana DeLorenzo is her actress. I wanted to make sure and cover that because I failed at it earlier.
Kelly. I don't know why. I don't know why.
All right. You just went Scottish. No prompting.
Yeah. The next bit of news I've got here is super interesting. So, are you guys familiar with the Chiodo brothers? Their claim to fame is they created the Killer Clowns movie. Anyway, have you guys seen that movie?
Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Chiodo brothers, who kind of got their start as being practical effects people, they made Killer Clowns from Outer Space. They were trying to make sequel to it forever. I think they were trying to make a TV show at one point, which I think kind of fell apart. They also did the claymation scene in
Pee-wee?
I don't know.
Is it Pee-wee?
That's not what I was going to say.
No, I was just taking a guess.
I was going to say an Elf. Jon Favreau's Elf.
Oh.
Like that opening claymation scene?
Yeah.
Nice.
So they they had worked with Favreau previously on Elf, and so they're teaming up with Favreau again to make a Netflix Christmas special, and it's all going to be like old style claymation stuff, and the name of it is going to be Alien Xmas, which apparently they wrote a book by the same name, and so this is going to be like sort of an adaptation of that book for Netflix.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
sounds
that's
great.
Intriguing for sure.
Yeah,
dude, we need to cover clowns, dude. Killer clowns, dude.
We do.
Probably should.
Yeah.
We should have like a Patreon, like a clown month for the poll pick.
Clown month. Probably should have been this month, but people are going to be done with clowns after next month.
Quit clowning around. So, yeah, that's coming out. We don't have a release date, but the book came out in 2015, so it was a few years ago. The quick synopsis of the book is, on Christmas Eve, in this quiet little outpost at the top of the world, the battle for Earth began. So, I mean, literally, it sounds like literally aliens versus like Santa Claus. It's kind of what it sounds like.
Santa Claus versus the Martians is already a movie, and it's terrible. But I'm sure this will be better than that.
Terrible.
It is a shit show. It's Mystery Science Theater pretty hard. I gotta tell you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked for that. I hope that comes out this Christmas. I don't know that it will, but we'll see. Last bit of news we got here. We got a new trailer. For a movie called Villains. It's starring Bill Skarsgård and Micah Monroe, and it's got a release date of September 20th, 2019. What did you guys feel about this little trailer right here?
I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Or I'm very intrigued. I was annoyed a little bit. Sometimes these damn trailers, they just give too much away. Or it feels like you're like carried like halfway through the movie. And it's like, why don't I just skip to halfway through the movie now? Like, I don't know. Like any kind of tension that might have been built up in maybe the first 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, I feel are like killed because they need to like intrigue you more with the trailer. Which is
I don't
annoying.
know why there's a definite, I don't want to like, if anybody wants to see the trailer and doesn't want that part spoiled, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's a definite like cutoff point where they could have cut it off and it would have been superbly intriguing.
Yeah.
And definitely pulled across what they wanted to, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's pervasive though. People want to show all the money shots in the trailer so they can sell it, even though that undercuts the actual viewing of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but
it looked interesting to me. I'm definitely intrigued.
I
could not place Skarsgård at first, and I was like, this guy looks familiar. What is it?
Yeah.
And
where's his makeup? I can't recognize him without the clown makeup.
Where's that really bizarre lower lip situation?
You know what? He kind of reminds me of. He has a similar look to Nicholas Hoult. I think that's that dude's name.
I don't know. Nicholas Hoult. No.
Wait, it's the dude who plays like Beast, and he's in Warm Bodies, and he's in Mad Max, Fury Road. He's in like a ton of shit. They have like a similar shaped kind of thing.
Nicholas Hoult, yeah. I just didn't know that was his name, but yeah, I guess I could see that a little bit. But to me, Skarsgård's got a very specific. He looks more like an older. What's that? Edward Furlong, except Edward Furlong did grow up and doesn't look like him. So it looks like Edward Furlong in Terminator 2 grew up to be Skarsgård. Is my theory.
He's got that white boy face for sure.
Got that white
boy face.
Okay.
Leave
it to the listeners to decipher what the hell that means.
The quick synopsis for Villains
I don't understand what that means.
Is as follows. Mickey and Jules are lovers on the run, headed southbound for a fresh start in the Sunshine State. When their car dies When their car dies after a gas station robbery, they break into a nearby house looking for a new set of wheels. What they find instead is a dark secret and a sweet-as-pie pair of homeowners who will do anything to keep it from getting out. I'm down. The cast has.
They must be heading to Paradise, aka Saxonville.
Saxonville. Hey, we're not talking about Ash vs. Evil Dead here, okay?
Yeah, it's true. I'm thinking like one thing that I didn't like really. I'm just now realizing about that trailer or about that movie is that it seems like they've done a similar not similar, but like they've also kind of broken tradition the way Midsommar has, and have a sort of a brightly colored horror movie situation going on.
It reminded me of Wes Anderson movies, like the tone and the colors. Yeah,
it wasn't pastel enough, I don't think. But
you know what it reminded me of, at least in the trailer? Like it intrigued me and reminded me the same way that Velvet Buzzsaw movie did.
Yeah, it's It's like early '90s, late '80s. Sort of feeling to me, like with the bright pink,
the bright colors, and the like black comedy kind of note a little bit to it, you know, like it seems like dark, but it also seems like it's light in some places. I don't know, but I still actually never even saw Velvet Buzzsaw.
What's his name? Donovan, the guy who plays the owner of the house. He gives me definite flashes of the movie Parents. You guys remember the movie Parents with
yes.
Yeah.
What's that fucker's name? Crazy fucker.
Quaid?
Dennis Quaid. Randy Quaid.
Randy, yeah.
Yeah, it was Randy Quaid. He gave me a Randy Quaid vibe a little bit.
Oh, Randy Gandy G Quaid over here.
let's not draw any parallels, please. I don't need that on my conscience.
Too late.
Dude, that dude's insane.
G Quaid. Yeah. That's all. I want somebody to take a picture of Randy Quaid and then just put Randy's face over top of him.
We should probably talk to our in-house graphic designer about that.
Randy Quaid?
You guys take a number. It's probably going to be a high number. Don't fret, though, because I'll never get to it.
Randy G. Quaid?
Randy, change your own face with that of an insane man.
I'm going to burn myself so good.
Entertain us with your face.
It's going to have a single tear rolling down the cheek.
Oh, well, we do have a voicemail this week. Let's go ahead and get into our Hotline Scream segment. If you yourself would like to call in and leave us a voicemail, you can reach us at 904-638-3231. Again, I encourage you all to sing a little ditty when you leave a voicemail, because I'm trying to cut a new bumper together for this segment. And our caller this week has certainly obliged. Let's go ahead and hear what Mr. Rage Cat has to say this week. Here we go.
When I hear that hotline scream, that can only mean one thing. Hello, everybody. It's me, Rage Cat, again. Considerably less inebriated than last time. Not about to lose it over a fucking rat. But I thought I'd give you guys a call now that you guys are going into the film that, well, I think constituted a good part of my high school re-interest in horror. I mean, I had seen a bunch of horror movies probably in my middle school years, but Army of Darkness and Evil Dead trilogy as a whole really got me back into the horror genre all over again, despite its inherent goofiness. I enjoyed a lot of the humor in it. A lot of it really just sort of hit me. Like, I think one of my favorite jokes in it is still just Ash fucking up the whole ritual thing with the Necronomicon, and just arguing with some unseen fucking force about how, I was close enough or something like that. And I don't know, it just even though it's more inherently goofier than the rest, it holds a place in my heart with nostalgia for just what Evil Dead was. And I honestly, just like I said, I attribute it to it getting me back into the horror genre. And so I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it. So until next time, I will be #hard with you or us. I'm not a fucking poser. I know what I'm saying. So,
he's hard with us.
So damn hard with us. And he is definitely not
a poser.
Fucking poser.
All right. I just got to say, man, the fucking text-to-speech, or speech,
it's
whatever,
so
speech-to-text is a non-stop thrill ride on this fucking thing. The fucking hotline scream line that was sung reads back as, "When I hear that man screaming back in on the mainland thing." That's fucking hilarious. Keep singing, guys. This shit is cracking me. I want to see how many ways Google can misinterpret how you're singing.
That's gold. That's fucking gold.
That's pretty funny.
And screaming on the mainland thing.
Screaming on the mainland thing.
That's what the Lighthouse. That's the summary of the Lighthouse, I'm assuming.
I think Randy finding it funny is more funny to me than it actually being funny.
But it's so funny.
Big thanks to Rage Cat for calling in again and sharing his story. That's awesome, man, that this was sort of like your re-entry into the horror genre. And it definitely feels like one of those things, like if you caught it in high school, it's like the perfect time, man. Like
that
throw
is
probably,
this movie on. Yeah, that makes sense. For sure. Again, if you would like to call and leave us a voicemail, you can do so at 904-638-3231. And I think at this point in the show, there's only one thing left to do. Justin, take it away.
Time for an intervention. Time to save a life. How to save a life.
Ooh, Bobby's Blu-rays. Ooh.
Is that the bump now?
Yeah.
Ooh, Bobby's Blu-rays.
Dude, we just need to get that old song, How to Save a Life. And I don't think we'll get to because no one remembers that song. So,
sorry, the fray. Eat shit and die.
Eat shit and live. Randy G. Quaid.
Oh, that's good.
It's time to save Bob's life, save his wallet. We are going to talk about Bob's Blu-rays, his ever-growing Blu-ray collection. We talking region-free. We talking the holographics. We talking the steelbooks. We talking the occasional 4K. We talking the grab bag DVD every once in a while when it just hasn't been converted, right? Yeah, right, Bob. Right?
Yes. You're speaking the language.
These are the things we're talking about. And also I need to add like a new element to this, which we'll talk about in a second. So Bob buys an increasing number of Blu-rays each month, it seems. So we're rounding out the month of August. Your last count was 14 for the month of August, Bob. Bob has ended the previous months of July with 19 and June of 14. So Bob, how are we going to end August, despite the fact that there's still like 6 days left in this month or whatever? But we'll end it today since next week will be September. So what you got for us, Bob?
All right.
Show us a stack.
On YouTube exclusive. It's just the two.
Slim again.
Oh, that's a big one, though.
Just the two.
Return Ghost House is a big one. How much did you pay for that Return to
Sleepaway Camp?
Yeah, so I mentioned previously on what we've been watching, the Ghost House and Witchery double feature that's put out from Scream Factory. I picked that up this week, and also I got a copy of Return to Sleepaway Camp on DVD, which I did. That was a gift. I didn't pay anything for that, and I got to give a mad shout out to a listener of the show, Dana. Big thanks to Dana for hooking me up with that.
Damn straight. Thanks, Dana.
Wow.
Yeah,
well, on Rod's behalf, because we'll never get to see it.
Come to town.
Rob,
come to town. I'll treat you. I'll treat you to a Return to Sleepaway Camp screening.
I don't know if I'm prepared for that ever.
It's not a great movie, but I haven't seen it in quite some time, and I just was really curious, wanting to see it again. And Dana actually, she came out to the live show of Sleepaway Camp at Sunray, and she participated in the trivia segment.
Oh yeah, she beat the shit out of everyone in that trivia.
Killed it, yeah. But yeah, so big thanks to her for hooking it up, and I look forward to rewatching it, even though I remember it being not so good. But you know, curiosity.
I mean, you're trying to like compare apples to the greatest oranges of all time. Rotten apples to the greatest oranges.
The greatest oranges of all time. Randy G. Quaid.
Sleepaway Camp.
Yep.
So our overall goal that we're trying to see is, could Bob eventually have afforded a jet ski by the end of this year had he saved all his money from all these purchases? But you got this one for free, so you know that's nice, and that's a great gift to get from a listener. That's awesome.
Yeah. I offered her monies, and she was like, "No, I require a portion of your soul," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess I can give you that. That's fine."
Okay. Well, Bob,
just another Horcrux in the box, I guess.
Add it to the total 70 now, huh, Bob?
Yeah, Yeah, I can see your nose turning to slits already.
Oh, the baseline is 69 Horcruxes, and then we finally upped it to one more.
Upped it.
You're going for 420 next, I assume.
Yep, that's the next jump.
So, Bob, you're going to end the month with 16 DVDs. Or should we count at 15 since you didn't purchase it?
Count it.
You make the rules. Whatever.
Look.
Well, here was another thing I was thinking of, and I need to check in with you about this. I know that and I'm counting it because recently you said, and even when I visited town in July, we had talked about it. You are in the market for some new furniture to house these Blu-rays. Have you gotten any new furniture in order to accommodate your ever-growing collection, Bob?
Not yet, no, but it's I need it.
You could build a shelf with your DVDs that you have lying around.
That's what you should do. build DVD furniture.
It's my DVD shelf built out of DVDs. You know, I don't have a problem.
You have a problem.
I don't have a problem. You're gonna be sleeping on Blu-ray soon, Bob.
That's not already happening. You're deluding yourself.
So once you purchase some new furniture, Bob, I'm counting that toward the jet ski budget. So since we're counting it toward the jet ski budget and you didn't spend any money, I'll leave the total count at 15.
All right.
Since that's what you spent your money on.
That's modest. It's a modest number.
So far, the last 3 months, which we've hit a quarter of the year now. A quarter of the year has been spent counting your Blu-ray. Bob's sheepish look.
It's time well spent.
Yeah, 14, 19, and 15 is how you spent a quarter of the year, Bob. Those are the counts for the past 3 months so far.
We don't need to add those numbers. We'll just keep rolling.
Easily hit double digits every time. Heading into the spooky season, I don't know. I feel like you've shown a little restraint these past 2 weeks, Bob. I feel like
he's been shamed into some submission.
The shame has been, shamed into submission. So the intervention is working. We're doing good work here.
You know, we're going to get you that jet ski, Bobby, whether you want it or not.
Next year is the year of the jet ski.
Year of the jet ski.
The next couple of months have some heat coming out, like some pretty
Bob.
good stuff. So I'll
gonna put you to the test.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be able to restrain yourself, Bob?
Probably not. I'm
just gonna massacre that wallet.
Yep. Oh, Bob is Blu-rays. Oh,
Bob.
I think that is about all we got this week. So we're going to be back next week with another show. We're going to be talking about Shin Godzilla, as was chosen by our lovely Patreon supporter, Jose. Thank you, Jose. So until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at str8_chilling. We're on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on our Slack conversations, just let me know, and I'll send you a link to join that. We talk about the movie of the week. We talk about TV shows, music, news, video games, all kinds of stuff. I think that's about it. Play video games with Justin on Monday night at 8 o'clock.
Monday night, 8 p.m. If you want in, give me that gamer tag.
Friday the 13th. Old Bobby Jarvis is out. We got to get a new Jarvis.
Bobby Jarvis is out.
Got to get a new Jarvis. So yeah, until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Groovy.